Colombians often use affectionate nicknames even in professional settings. True or false?
True.
Colombians tend to communicate directly and say exactly what they think. True or false?
False.
Dancing is such a big part of the culture that Colombians start learning it as kids. True or false?
True.
Hi, and welcome to ASHA Global Voices Podcast. My name is Tjasa Strle, and I'm a cross-cultural leadership coach and the creator of ASHA Global Voice. Together with my guests, we are sharing stories from around the world about different cultures, leadership, and human experiences that connect us. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button. Your support means the world to me. And now, let's dive into today's episode.
Hi and welcome to ASHA Global Voices Podcast. Today my guest is Adriana Fuentes Amorocho from Colombia. She's an international business administrator with a master's in economics and experiential education and over 11 years of experience in Fintech, auto parts, technology and events. With a background in entrepreneurship and leadership, she helps companies grow through conscious leadership, sustainable strategies, and empowered diverse teams. Adriana is also a high-performance mentor and passionate advocate for female leadership. Adriana, welcome. It's such a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let's start with true or false statements. The first one was that Colombians often use affectionate nicknames even in professional settings. And you said that this one is true. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? What kind of nicknames do you use?
Well, normally it depends of the region because, for example, I'm from Bogota and people from Bogota are more formal. So let's say people from Bogota, maybe you won't see it that they say that often, but maybe for different regions like Medellin or Santander, or especially the Caribbean coast, we are more affectionate people. So I'm born from Bogota, but I grew up in the Caribbean part, and my family are from Santander. So I'm a mix of, let's say, all inside cultures of my country. So I'm not that formal that a normal people from Bogota would be. But we normally use querido, corazón, and maybe if they are very they know each other for long, maybe they can use like a personal nickname. Like they won't call it for your last name, if not like a nickname. For example, Adriana, and some people can call me Nana. So to keep it more close, uh, but yeah, also it's true, but also would depend of the region and how connected or how close you are with the person you're doing business with.
Interesting. And you said, just to say it also in English for our guests that maybe don't understand Spanish, you said that some of you use querido, which is darling, and corazón, which is heart, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And would you say that this kind of, I know you also had experiences with other cultures, but do you think using this kind of nicknames as well that you said brings you kind of closer together and it's good for relationships?
I mean, you mean for foreigners to do it in Colombia or between Colombians?
Between Colombians.
I mean, yes, of course. It's a way of showing that you are close to that person. And yeah, I will say that mainly it's that, like it helps you to connect easily with that person in a more personal level, but not with everyone. I mean, if it's just the first or second or just the few or first, let's say, meetings, of course, not everyone will take it that as good, let's say, somehow, because they'll say, why you're saying darling, I don't even know you. It's part of the culture. But I mean, if you already start doing business with someone, of course, because that shows in somehow that you are close, that you're related, that you want to intimate more with them. So let's say it depends on the phase, on the business or on the relationship, because if it's someone you already know for for a long time and then now you're doing business, it's okay. For first time, second, or the few, let's say the first times, not much, but of course it's good and people take it in goodwill, let's say.
And how would you feel, let's say that we start doing business and we know each other for some time already, not the first time, so we already built a relationship and I am a foreigner, so I'm not Colombian. And I would use cariño, so darling or something like that. Would it be strange for you?
Probably what a Colombian will do with love, and they will understand that maybe you get to know these words for a friend, or maybe you knew a Colombian outside Colombia, let's say in your country or in a different, let's say more in a social atmosphere. So maybe that would help you to be like icebreaker thing, you know? Everyone is so like tense and stuff. Maybe if you're a foreigner and you say that, people kind of like let the guard down. So of course, for in Colombia will help you to try to use these words, because for a foreigner in Colombia, it will be more like, oh, they're trying to connect with our culture, to our language. So for foreigners, it will be easier. Yeah, of course. If you use it, they will take it in a goodwill. So it will be good for you to do it. If I'm not foreigner, I'm local, people maybe will look at me like, why you take too much of confidence without know each other. But for a foreigner, it's okay.
Okay,
Actually,
good.
yeah, they will laugh. They will ask you, "Oh, who taught you that?" or "How you learned this word?" or like, yeah, it would be definitely an icebreaker for the first time, or for the communication, or for people trying to get to know you. Nice. I mean, where you learned that? So yeah.
Good to know. And tell me, the second one was that Colombians tend to communicate directly and say exactly what they think. And you said that this one is false. So tell us now, please, how do you communicate usually?
Well, as I said at the beginning, Colombians are well known for being very formal in the way we communicate. Even the way we speak is always very respectful and kind of respecting also hierarchy somehow. So let's say Miss, Doctor, well, we use different kind of way of showing you respect. But culturally, let's say Latin people are not known for being direct, no like Germans, no like different cultures, that are more used to go to the point in a meeting or in business. Okay, point one, two, three, this is where we're gonna talk about it. No, Colombians like first to talk about how we're doing. So always it has to be a little bit more getting to know each other. How's your family? How are you doing? How's your week? Talking a little bit how is the Colombian political thing, or maybe something you like about it. It depends of what kind of a meeting. If it's one or it's like with other people, they will start talking about certain topics. Oh, football game. Did you saw it yesterday? Or those kind of things. Like for example, you were asking me as a foreigner. For a foreigner, they will ask you, "Oh, where are you from? What is the typical food from your country? Have you tried coffee already? Have you tried aguardiente? Which places have you visited?" So they will try and first get to know you, and then maybe after half an hour talking about how we've been, then they'll start talking into business. So first is more like a social talk, let's say, and secondly will be into business or the meeting kind of objective that you have, even if it's virtual or personal. Let's say it's the way it is. Maybe nowadays, the newer companies, more technological companies for virtual meetings are more straightforward to getting to the point. But even though the first 5 or 10 minutes will be for social talk, let's say.
Okay, so we could say that building relationship in Colombia is really important, right?
Yes, yes. They will kind of see you rude if you talk too directly would be like, are you mad? Like very, yeah. Even for response, maybe that's something very common. They won't tell you no right away. They will give you different responses to make you understand that maybe not, but they won't reply to you directly, and they won't tell you right away what you're expecting to. No, it always have to be an explanation, background, or a social talk before getting into a topic.
Okay, great. Thank you for elaborating this. And the third one was the dancing is such a big part of the culture that Colombians start learning it as kids. And you said that this one is true. Tell us a bit more
Yes,
about it.
definitely that's true. We Colombians love dancing, and it's part of our culture. As I told you at the beginning, I'm from Bogota. In Bogota, we don't dance as much. It's like any capital in the world, that people from everywhere. So it's kind of like a mixed culture. So even that we listen music here in Bogota, it's not as inside cities or towns, like in the Caribbean. Since you are a kid, you get to listen cumbia, different kind of rhythms, vallenato, different kind of rhythms are typical from the region. So you dance, you do like show dance in school. So like your parents and your family go to see you. So definitely depends of the region. It's the music you learn as a kid, let's say, not only dancing but also with instruments to play with and understanding and get related with the music of your region and Colombia in general. But some regions have more strength, let's say, these music connections, like the Caribbean or the Pacific, Cali for the salsa. So, of course, not everyone here in Bogota will dance salsa, but if you go Cali and the Pacific, for sure, everyone will dance salsa for sure. In the Caribbean, cumbia, vallenato, merengue. In Santander, they dance a little bit more also vallenato and like very moving, let's say, kind of music. Yeah, depends on the region, but for sure, since we are kids, we get to learn how to dance and how to play those instruments and relate it with the music we typical, like our roots.
I love that. So if I understood correctly, every child is learning dancing and also a musical instrument in school.
Yes, but
Amazing.
typical instruments, not like guitar and flute and those, no, like the typical instrument for playing our local music.
Okay. And tell me, I know now we already discussed a little bit about Colombian culture, but still I want to ask you, how would you describe Colombian culture to someone who's never been there? What would you say?
Okay, Colombian culture, I'll say, if I have to choose, let's say, three words, I'll say it's warm because we welcome everywhere to be here. So that's part of the risk of coming to Colombia because you will feel part of a family. Vibrant, let's say, not only for the music, also for like the colorful, like we are very colorful people, open to talk to everyone and to dance, to welcome everyone to our homes, to share in general. And the third will be community center or family center. For us, it's very important family. It's losing a little bit this. Let's say new generation maybe are not that strong family centered, but still you will see that every Sunday or for weekends is very common to expand with family, like lunch family or special holidays to be always with family. So I'll say these three words. We are also known for being very friendly, resilient, because I don't know if these people that everyone is listening to us right now have listened everything or something about Colombia, but normally they always talk about the conflict, drugs, and something that been in our history. So that makes us very resilient. But even that we have been in war and different situations, we are very joyful people. So we enjoy everything. Food, be together. We always have a reason to celebrate. We lose, okay, we celebrate. We win, we celebrate. So we try always to see the positive in everything and overcome much of claim about it, more to see get the solutions. So we enjoy everything, the good and the bad. So that's why we kept to be in the top rank of happiest places. Of course, now we are not in the top 2, but still we are in the top 5 or top 10. Now, I don't know this year what is our rank, but still we are a country and a culture that we are very joyful, happy, and open to share. For sure, we have a strong emphasis on relationships, as we mentioned with the true and false questions. So people tend to be very hospitable and open to new cultures. So even inside our cities, let's say, because in Colombia we have inside cultures, let's say, but also we are very welcome to see and understand different way of seeing different cultures coming to Colombia. So yeah, we're strong family bonds, passion for life, and um, to find joy even in difficult circumstances, let's say.
Thank you for sharing this. As you mentioned before, that sometimes maybe foreigners connect Colombia with the past, with drugs, as you said, and some other things. Would you say, is there anything else about Colombian culture that you think foreigners often misunderstand?
Well, let's say most of it, I'll say people misunderstand or think when they get to mention Colombia, they will think for the bad, let's say, guerrilla, conflict, drugs, Pablo Escobar, which sometimes foreigners try to be gentle or as an open mood say, oh, Pablo Escobar, parce, with all these novelas that you get to see that mention all these conflicts that used to be in the past is not now a reality. So we get to be very offended if someone tells you, oh, Pablo Escobar. So it's not a nice opening. So for sure, it's a misunderstanding because people think we're proud of, but we are not proud of that. We are proud of our coffee, our flowers, our artists, like Shakira, Karol G, Maluma. We have different, Carlos Vives, music, as we mentioned in the beginning. Music and culture is part of or our identity, let's say, as Colombians. And also we are very rich on culture, innovation, and for the past years, Medellin also being one of the innovation cities in the world. So you will see here also it's a very entrepreneur country. So it's always new ideas in sustainability in many fields. You will see we're trying always to progress. So yeah, I would say mostly it's that people trying to connect our culture with these two things that is a dangerous country, but okay, nowadays all countries are dangerous, but Colombia have a richness in nature, in culture, in food, in everything that you can possibly imagine. So probably as first impression, I would say that's the first misunderstanding that maybe we can have. Something related more with the culture, I'll say maybe there is a misconception or people get confused with our relaxation approach. Let's say maybe because we get to see deer, darling, my love, as we mentioned before, I think it's we are not committed people or we are too flexible that we don't commit with things. Maybe people think that, or that's also a misunderstanding that it could be by culture. So yeah, mostly to not knowing us that, and it will make us maybe inefficient or not responsible people because maybe we have many holidays or we tend to be very warm, not direct people. But a part of that, I'll say maybe it's just two things that we've been known as prostitution, drugs, country, very risk country to visit, but we have, of course, many things to offer that are not those three things. But apart of that, I'll say we are pretty much good.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adriana, for sharing this. And you raised a good point there as well, that maybe some foreigners could see your, as you mentioned before, hospitability and being open and kind of appreciating life. They could get it the wrong way. But that's why I also feel like it's really important to raise awareness that we are different cultures. We have so many different cultures. And as you also mentioned before, for example, Germans are more task oriented. They don't like, not that they don't like, but it's not common to kind of put so much emphasis on relationships. They like to go straight to the point in meetings. But you are different. Relationships are more important, and there is no right or wrong. I think we are just kind of different. We were raised differently. Sometimes, because I live in Slovenia, we also maybe don't give so much emphasis on relationship building. But in my opinion, I feel like this is really beneficial for everyone. But yeah, that's why it's great that we have these conversations so that we can learn more about each other. And tell me, we also discussed a little bit of communication style, and you said that you are not really direct in communication, more indirect. Yeah, I would also like to ask you, how do Colombians usually give critical feedback? So if you have to, give critical feedback to someone.
Okay, well, that's a tricky question, but I will say Colombians typically give critical feedback more directly and privately. It's not common that maybe in a meeting, let's say with your team, you will tell just to everyone what you've done wrong. It's more like a one-to-one kind of a feedback in order to avoid not only misunderstanding, but maybe they would take it as not respectful. So we often use the sandwich method, which is more like a positive feedback, constructive criticism, then ending with something positive. Okay, it's more like direct confrontation is generally avoided to preserve harmony in the atmosphere. So maybe they will send you an email or tell you one to one, but for the team, they will tell you the positive, the good, and the things that you have to improve. It will be more one to one. Yeah, we tend to soften criticism with positive comments. As I told you, we always trying to see more the intention of your actions more than criticize or give you feedback for the bad things you've done. In general, Colombians try to avoid confrontation, not only in business, but also in social life. So they will do phrases like quizás. So we'll be like, maybe we could consider to do things this way or that way. Or it would be better if you try to, those kind of phrases that would help you to give you feedback. So let's say that's the way to communicate, even in personal relationship or in business, for feedback.
Okay. And I also know that you lived for some time in Italy. And if you could maybe compare, what would you say are some of the biggest differences, or maybe one difference that you notice between Colombian and Italian culture? Maybe especially in how people communicate.
Okay, the big differences, maybe I'll say it's part of we already said at the beginning. Colombians are not direct. Italians are very direct. Let's say Europeans in general are very direct, or yeah, they're straightforward. This is what I want. This is what I need. Let's do it in 1, 2, 3. Very few Colombians will be that great or accurate to give you this is what I want, this is what I need. At least they are in a very high level business position. Let's say, for sure, they have less time So they know every meeting have to be very short and pointed to the objective. But in general, let's say general people, Italians are very open, but not that intimate as Colombia, let's say. Both cultures are open and very joyful, but I would say Italians are more direct, less personal, intimate, more superficial. Colombians try to be more into it. Maybe it's 50-50, but during my time, because I've been discussed this last year that I was in Italy with people around, in the time I was working there and studying there, I find hierarchy to be very strong in business. So I was working in fashion in Milan, and for me, being a woman was very hard because, and I was very young at the time. I was 21. So, but I was doing my master's. Normally, Europeans at that age are studying university, so they didn't take me. They didn't take me as, it's not coming the word.
Serious.
Serious, exactly. Serious because I was a young woman and I was having ideas, and the hierarchy in Italy I found it to be very strong. So young people can have strong leadership or management in high companies because they're too young. They need to have more experience. Here in Colombia, it's not like that. Let's say it's 50-50. Let's say it depends of the industry you're working with, of course. If it's technology, different industries like fintech or events and stuff like that, it's very common that a young person can be in management. It's not more about the age, it's more about the knowledge and the abilities that you have to get into the position. And I found it to be very hard to get that in Italy. I found it to be more hierarchy, more personal connection. So if you know someone, maybe you get to be there, but without or being a foreigner, it was very complicated. Foreigner, young woman, I find it to be very, very strong. So I'll say in that, and Italians, I love Italy. I love Italians, but in terms of mindset, Colombians are more open for working with people, for innovation, to implement fast. I find it to be Italians to be more slow in that scale. You know, they are more close-minded. They are more get into the history, how they've done things for the past, hierarchy, and less fast to innovate. That's my perception. Maybe I'm wrong, but in my experience, uh, that's what I face in business. Personal social life is a different thing.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. It's really interesting how we see each other being from different cultures. So I think this was very valuable what you just shared. For example, for a Slovenian or for a German, we see Italians as more open than we are, more hospitable, and things like that. So it really, there are differences between us. So thank you so much for sharing what you experienced. And we already touched a little bit. You said that in Colombia, it's not so uncommon to see a young person in a management role. Let's talk about leadership a little bit more. So what would you say are some leadership traits that are highly valued in Colombia?
Okay, but I wanted to clarify it. In Colombia, you get to see young people in management, but I was mentioning it's not that much common in Italy.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I misunderstood. Because for the same reason of resilience, you get to see young generations get to be very entrepreneur here. So leadership is part of, let's say, nowadays, more into the basics abilities that someone, once it's out to the university, should, even if you study gastronomy or different of management, let's say business management or those careers. For leaderships, it's important, for example, to get to know languages, because of course Colombia needs to be related with the Europeans, with the US, with Australia, different countries. So of course, in leadership, you have to have certain soft and hard abilities that would help you to go into worldwide businesses. So let's say the value leadership traits in Colombia would be very a leadership very. I always call that leadership have a masculine and feminine kind of a vision, even if you're woman or man, doesn't matter. But definitely the values of leadership here in Colombia, it's empathy, adaptability, ability to inspire. It has to be very human, very based on relationships, as I told you. So this approach has to be that as a leader, you need to care about your team, your surrounding. Also, we value, demonstrate genuine care for the team is not seen as something bad. Actually, it's being positive to demonstrate your care, your feelings, even if you are in a high position. So let's say now it's not like the hierarchy is that apart. Nowadays, the culture it's getting more like horizontal. Of course, in certain big industries, it's still those levels of hierarchy with leadership should be based on respect, but nowadays it's getting more equal. Show commitment to community or to your group or to your company or to your partners. In leadership, it's also important the vision, how you overcome those obstacles. For a Colombian, a key it's be very resourcefulness. If you've been working with a Colombian in another country, a Colombian person or leader, it's always known because it's very resourceful. It will find a way with very few resources to solve a big problem. So it's part of our resilient culture and our history that make us to be like that. Also, of course, communicate with charisma and inspiration. It's part of uh, how to give that feedback properly to your team. Strong ethical principles and family values are important in order to connect with the people that you're working with and show humility despite their success. So, exactly, trying to be that apart, more close. Of course, there's still different type of leaderships in the industry, but let's say in general, this is our the highly values that we look into leadership nowadays in the market in Colombia in general.
Okay, interesting. And would you say that it's usually kind of expected from a leader to make decisions and to kind of give tasks to the team?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me, I also know that you worked with the global supply chains and different cultures. So you worked with Dubai, India, Mexico when you were in automotive industry. And what would you say was one of the most surprising cultural differences for you?
Okay, so let's start at saying the automotive industry in general is very male dominated. So for being a woman there, it was already a shock because I started very young. I started when I was 22, working there, and I had to negotiate with people who was 50, 60 years old. Shocking, just the fact that I have to be very aggressive and face very macho mentality in some cultures like Mexico, let's say, especially, it was hard sometimes trying to do business as a very young woman. But it was a good experience working in Dubai. I didn't have the pleasure to work with Arabs, let's say, because Dubai also has different cultures. Mostly in Dubai, I've been working with Indians. So Indians and Colombians, let's say, even that we have differences culture, we are also very common into get personal relationships even in business, let's say. So that was a good experience, but I will say hierarchy in India it's very important, and part of being a woman it was a challenge. It was very challenging working with Indians because they get to be more into instructions. So if you say this, they don't go beyond. Very few people. Maybe if you are in high management, of course, you have a different vision. But in general, I find it to be sometimes hard because if you say, please give me this, they will give you that. They won't go more on the topic or ask you or doing more than you expected. And here in Colombia, people, as I told you, are very resourceful, are very giving. So for me, it was kind of a shock sometimes because it was slow working for me sometimes. I have to repeat 3, 4, even 5 times something that maybe here was quick or was done easier. Cultural differences, religions, of course, the way we dress, the way we talk. Uh, Decision making was different. Also, the way you take decisions are different. I find to be Indians very workaholics, very more not, let's say Colombians are also very committed to work and they're also very workaholics. But I found it to be more extreme. But we have very similarities, let's say, in terms of talking Indians, Mexico, Colombian. We are all strong warm, formality, um, meetings, greetings. Maybe Indians are more straightforward because they have this British influence. So they go straightforward maybe in the meetings. And here, of course, in Latin America, as I said, you need to get to know first, maybe later talking to business. If you are too straightforward at the beginning, they won't take it good. Maybe they will close you for business because people need to get to know first. So a part of that, maybe punctuality. Indians are very punctual. Mexicans are Colombians or Latin Americans in general are mostly the same, maybe 5-10 minutes difference in a virtual meetings or personal. They try to be more punctual in business nowadays. In social life, maybe they get late. If you say 8, maybe they're right at 9. But in business, it's not that much. I'll say now it's getting to be more accurate to be punctual, but still it's not that sharp as um, India, Dubai, Europeans for sure. Latins, they relax a little bit more on those. Also, in my experience, what I face is that sometimes the way we do business is different. Not only how we communicate, if also how we take decisions and how long we take decisions. Colombia take time to, even the Colombians are the fastest in taking decisions from Latin America. Uh, Still, if you compare with other cultures that are more straightforward, we still are delayed on taking, but we need to take different approaches and opinions inside companies to take decisions. So that's why it takes time in terms of decision making, comparing with the Indians or Dubaians, Europeans, uh, or even Americans, I'll say.
Adriana, these were
Negotiation style and not that direct negotiation style. Mostly those.
these were amazing comparisons and examples. Thank you for sharing them. And you also mentioned religion, and let me ask you, what kind of role does religion play in Colombia? What would you
Okay, in
say?
Colombia, mostly people, yeah, mostly are Catholics, but you also will see there is a big percentage of Christians, maybe very small Muslims or Mormons, or yeah, I would say those are the basic religions. Maybe now you find also Scientology places and maybe few new religions, but working with Indians, Punjabi is a different. Indians have a very different. They have many religions inside their culture, so that for me it was very enriched. Like I get to understand different perception of God, how to relate also with God through people, and rituals and different things. Here it's a small community of Indian. Here are Indians. You will find a couple of Indian restaurants, and a community, a small community. But But the thing is, maybe in your daily life, you don't get to share that much, that I got to see traveling in my business experience, let's say.
Yeah, these were amazing experiences that definitely also broadened your horizons, which is always great. And tell me, Adriana, I also know that you advise startups on leadership and vision. And my question is, what do you believe is the most important element for a new business to get right from the start?
In general or in Colombia?
You can choose. I mean, if there is a big difference in general and in Colombia, we can start with Colombia.
Okay. Because I would say here in Colombia, I would say now the new entrepreneurs are trying to get into the right mindset. Let's say they take the risks to do it, but sometimes they don't have the structure on how to structure a process, or to have a finance department inside a company, especially in finance. Let's say finance and processes are the less important topics for entrepreneurs in Colombia. For them, it's more important getting to the market, sell, but then maybe they start growing without any structure, and that helps them or makes them to not be successful maybe within the second or third year or of the business, because they don't structure properly a culture, because they don't structure properly the processes, so how to scale when they start growing, or especially how manage the finance into their business. So I will say that, and also part of what we mentioned before, that I work a lot with not only entrepreneurs but also with leaders in the companies, is the health. You know, because you maybe can have the mindset but not the habits to be or to have equilibrium in different dimensions. So maybe you focus too much on work and to make your company or your startup to grow, but then taking in account to your health. So that balance is one of the things that maybe entrepreneurs always forgets, because they get to, I have to get it done. So I have to sell, I have to do this. They do multiple things instead of hiring people and start structuring and invest in different areas, or invest in diversifying how do they invest their money, not only in the business, maybe outside the business, to have like a second income, that, or how they manage in general finance. So I'll say in general in Colombia, these are the three things that mainly startups or leaderships in small businesses or medium, that they need to work on. And also how to do, without those, it's very hard for them to get investment from outside, because you need certain KPIs or information that mostly entrepreneurs don't know how to your business thermostat, let's say it is. So maybe general, in other countries, you don't get to see that many entrepreneurs that you see here in Colombia, but maybe they are more structured because they have more support for government, or they have more programs to help entrepreneurs since university to be more structured and how to do businesses. I think the problematics are different in other markets than in Colombia, but basically here it's how to structure, manage the money to be able to scale, and not forget that also as a person you need to take care of yourself, otherwise it will affect your business as well.
Great points. Thank you for sharing them, Adriana. And also, you mentioned that there is a lot of entrepreneurs in Colombia, if I understood correctly. Why do you think that is so? That so many people decide in Colombia to start the entrepreneurship journey?
I think there are many reasons why. First,
All good, I can hear you.
yeah, sorry. First,
Is it the baby?
yeah, it is the baby. I think now
You,
he's calm a
you,
little. Sorry.
no worries. If you
Yeah, it
have
was
to
just the baby
go,
crying, so I couldn't focus.
I
Sorry.
know. You go and check if you think you have to.
Yeah, and then I'll be back.
Okay, asking you about why so many people.
Yes. Okay. So why so many people are entrepreneurs here in Colombia? Maybe it's part of our resilient history. Let's say we've known to not have like a stable economy always, we have good times, bad times, and all in those countries that you see that is war or political differences, you get to see that people try to get money in somehow. So first, Colombian opened the market, let's say, uh, to international companies not that ago. I don't have the exact time now or the accurate date now, but let's say 30 to 50 years from now. So that makes to see that it's less opportunities to people to get like a stable job or those kind of things. Also, if the dollar goes up, everything here also get to be changed. So I'll say there are less opportunities than maybe in more stable economies. So that makes people to have 2, 3 jobs here. So you see, it's common also that you get to see here in Colombia, there are many single women that have their stable job, but they also have other 2, 3 jobs. So they sell something online or they have a side business because the income is not that high. So let's say you need to have different jobs to have certain level. Not everyone have access to education, so that also makes difficult for some people to have a better income. So I'd say it's part of being a country with the war, with not a stable economy, with different educational backgrounds, and that makes people to be very resourceful, as I say. So people they're very curious. Part of our culture, it's maybe because we're very culture based, make us to be very curious people. So we need to understand how to work this and get to know a little bit of everything. So it's very common that I say here, someone works but also have a side business, an extra income, but also, but I don't know if there are many, maybe there are different reasons that I don't know, that I'm not aware of. Never get to research about it. Why maybe Colombia is one of the countries we have more entrepreneurs, but I'll say mainly is those reasons, social, political, um, economical reasons that make people to have wanted more income and not expecting only to be from the outside, let's say for the companies, external companies that come here into Colombia, also to make big businesses here in Colombia. There are rich people here, but they own many things. The one who owns cars, owns banks, owns different. So there are no many rich families in Colombia. There are few. So that makes people or the opportunity to more people to try to get into that state, let's say. So basically, maybe
Yeah.
also the influence in other countries who they're big and Colombians have a lot of abilities, let's say.
Okay, this makes a lot of sense. And I just wanted to say, because before I pressed pause, that somebody joined, so your son also joined us. Yeah. And I also saw my dog on the wall in between, so that was also funny. This is the last question that I always ask all of my guests. If you could imagine a better future for people globally, what does that look like?
Okay, let's say in my vision, normally I'll say for a better global future will be balance. I think we get to be very extreme in visions, okay? We like this or we don't like it, or we are feminist or we are macho, or we are right or wrong, or we are positive or we are negative. I'll say in general, and to be open to listen all kind of just not only opinions, religions, and everything. For example, I am vegan and Catholic, and I'm a single woman. So let's say in many ways, I like to break the limits of what you think should be, and somehow. Because we're trying to label people. Okay, you are from this region, or you're a woman, you should go for this path and think this way, or do this kind of things. And when you are different, sometimes people, I won't say no respect, because nowadays people are more respectful of difference, but getting to really interesting in that we all are different, and those differences are the real things that enrich. So we are in an era of technology, which I love technology, but I also think we need to balance with human kindness, empathy, because I think now that ChatGPT, Claude, or AI tools that are coming, there is always this fear, are we going to lose the job and stuff? At the end, this global future will make us more challenging. How do we connect with people? Because technology will help us to grow, to structure easily, to get faster things, but not these communication skills, know how to be more human, how to really understand our mental health, our heart, and how our workers are, those kind of things that technology can solve. Because at the end are those things that only you can manage your life, and how do you approach people who are surrounding you. So I'll say, how do we balance things and have a vision also future that remarks with creativity, resilience, and emotional intelligence, because I think it's important nowadays to really work on it. More women, of course, in business, more break that limit that only millionaires and billionaires are men. Of course, nowadays it's going a little bit more, but that we can do business in a different way. Of course, leadership from a woman has to be as a woman vision, a woman leader leading as a man, because it's different. How do you approach people? How do you do things? Of course, like for example, in my case with my baby, this is how you can live humanly, and it's part of my daily life, and it doesn't make me more or less professional. It's part of what it is, and how to handle it, not seen as a bad habit or not committed person. I took him with me to a business meeting in Germany last year, and for me it was shocking that people got to see me with my son. Some people took it in a good way, some people took it into a bad way. At the end, it's how do you approach. But I think having less limits on how doing business and getting more human, because at the end, technology will give you all the innovation, all the process, and everything you will need. But those hard and soft skills need to be there. You need to work more on it on a business level, because we take it now too easily, like, okay, anyone can do that, like, but a success in a company, or the key asset is people and their skills and how they related together. So for me, it's those things that will make a good future, a reliable one.
Adriana, thank you so much for sending out those beautiful wishes out to the universe for humanity. They truly were beautiful. And thank you as well for sharing everything with us. It was super interesting talking with you about Colombian culture, about leadership and everything that you do. And it was a pleasure meeting, if only online, so thank you.
Now, hopefully, we get to see each other soon. You never know. And
Yeah.
to everyone, thank you very much for this time to listen to us, to get to know a little bit more the Colombian culture, not only for come visiting here and getting to know our beautiful country, but also to do business, because at the end, I'll say cross-border, it's just on it. It's not new. Now I can be here in Colombia selling into Europe, into Australia, or Australian or European or Americans having businesses here in Colombia. So getting to understand these differences makes more successful those businesses, but how do you can approach and expand your own businesses. So it's good to hear from different cultures, different perspectives would help you to grow and understand or even innovate with ideas that maybe works in some other countries and then haven't been in your country for different reasons, but maybe can fit into your market. So thank you. Thanks to you, Tjasa, for inviting me, for being open here to talk about my country, to our culture, to the way we do business. And well, hopefully we get to see each other soon.